Ladies and gentlemen, now that the Mega Millions jackpot has been announced, I can finally tell the world, yes, it was me who won it all. And do you know what I plan to do with that $908 million? I'm going to buy the Red Sox, and I'm going to make every single one of them just sit on the bench so that the Dodgers win the World Series. Good afternoon, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Nick Drago, and yes, I'm still dirt broke. I did not win the lottery. Coming up on the show today, we got another wild week in the Big Four sports. We're going to try and figure out the Oakland Raiders, more in the probable retirement of Bilal Powell, and of course, we have a guest on with us today. Joining us from Washington, D.C. is our hockey specialist, Brenden O'Keefe. Stick around because sports starts now.
And the Yankees are on the board.
Shoots and scores, a rocket slammer.
Welcome one and welcome all to the Sports Podcast with me, your host, Nick Drago. For those that are new to the show, our goal is to recap the news from the previous week while looking ahead to the next. If you like what you hear, go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and / or SoundCloud and type in Sports with Nick Drago. That will be us. Then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Before we begin this week's show, I just want to say thank you to all of our new fans, all the views from this past week. Honestly, we've had so many new people flocking the show. We actually had to cancel that section where we announced the names of all the new people flocking to the show. We literally had 159 new subscriptions this week, which is gigantic, almost doubling what we had previously. So if you want to add to that total, again, go hit that subscribe button. All right. I keep breaking my viewership records. I know how Steph Curry feels on a week-by-week basis. Now, I should note that this is our Halloween special, so all my ghouls and witches out there, be ready. Although, honestly, this is going to be the same as any other episode. The only difference is I'm all hopped up on candy today. Nothing really new in my life. Same boring, living the married life now. That's been fun. Same stuff, different day. We got a lot of show to cover. Let's get into that pesky World Series. By midweek, Dodgers fans had a bit to sweat over. That $200 million roster still appeared to not be enough after they dropped games 1 and 2. On Friday night, though, Dodgers got to bring the series back to LA where they had a 1-run lead going into the 8th before Jackie Bradley Jr. He homered and he tied it up. Dodgers would eventually get the win in the 18th inning after a Max Muncy home run. That game is now the longest in World Series history, 18 innings. I couldn't imagine being there. Then on Saturday, the Dodgers are winning by 4. They were winning by 4 in the 6th inning, ended up giving away 9 runs in the final 3 innings of the game. Womp, womp, womp. At this point, the Red Sox are one win away from World Series victory, and just saying that out loud actually made me throw up a little bit in my mouth. The next game, is actually going on right now. Red Sox are winning 2-1 in the second as we're recording this. It's going to be too late for me to have the final score for you, though. I should say, though, the series is certainly not over. The Cubs were down 1-3 after the first 4 games as well, and they wound up winning the final 3 to win the title. That was a couple of years ago. So, Dodgers fans, hey, best of luck, guys. Texans, they beat the Dodgers. Oh, apparently we're just going right into football. I should probably say that. Hey, by the way, we're going to talk about football now. All right, Texans beat the Dolphins on Thursday, 42-23. J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson were healthy, and Houston looked like it could take the division. Eagles beat the Jaguars across the pond. God, do I love 9:30 in the morning football. 4 Jags players were arrested the night before after skipping out on a bill at a local nightclub. First off, the bill was close to $64,000. Obviously, going out isn't fun unless you're spending a ridiculous amount of money. Can I have that? Please. Please. They were detained for 9 hours. This was all the night before the game. Barry Church, one of the players arrested, said the entire thing was a misunderstanding. I'm not really quite sure what was misunderstood about paying a bill, but please, Barry, feel free to enlighten us. Bears beat the Jets 24-10. Redskins beat the Giants 2013. Adrian Peterson continues to prove he has juice in the tank, rushing for 149 yards. Panthers, they get a win over the Ravens 36-21. Carolina's offense remains impenetrable. They've only yielded 10 sacks all season and held the Ravens' defense to 0. Seahawks with 3 touchdowns in the second quarter give them the 28-14 victory over the Lions. This team was off to a rough start, but they managed to win 4 of the last 5 games, losing the Rams by 1 point 2 weeks ago. Don't count them out for a wild card slot just yet. After 4 interceptions, Jameis Winston, he was taken out of the game versus Cincinnati, allowing Ryan Fitzpatrick, a.k.a. Fitzmagic, to lead the Bucs in a 17-point fourth quarter to tie the Bengals, but a last-minute 44-yard field goal by Randy Bullock got Cincy the 37-34 victory. Chiefs hold off the Broncos 30-23 to improve their record to 7-1, 4 TDs for Pat Mahomes. Steelers with the 33-18 victory over the Browns. James Conner continues to shine with 146 yards, 2 touchdowns. And honestly, I forgot who Le'Veon Bell was for a moment. If he's not careful, so will the rest of the league. Steelers, trade that guy already. Seriously. Colts beat the Raiders 42-28, with the score tied, 10 minutes remaining. 2 Marlon Mack touchdowns, and 1 from Jack Doyle helped the Colts on top. Put the Colts on top, that is. And have no fear, Oakland fans, I'm going to be talking about the Raiders in just a moment. The Rams, they remain undefeated after a nail-biter against Green Bay with 2 minutes left and down 2 points. LA scores a 34-yard field goal. They stay 8-0. Cardinals beat the 49ers 18-15. 49ers still only 1 victory for the year. Vikings and Saints, they play a late game tonight. Bills and Patriots, they face off on Monday. Let's take a look at what the playoffs would look like if they started today. From the NFC North, you got the Vikings, who are 4-2. From the South is the Saints at 5-1. Redskins leading the NFC East still at 5-2. That's the story nobody's talking about. How are the Redskins leading the NFC East? NFC West, the Rams are undefeated. Panthers, they're 5-2. Seahawks are 4-3. Those would be your 2 wild cards. In the AFC, you got the Steelers leading the North 4-2. Texans at 5-3. Patriots at 5-2. Chiefs at 7-1. And then your 2 wild card teams would be the Chargers at 5-2 and the Bengals at 5-3. Jets fans received some sad news this week when they found out that running back Bilal Powell will have season-ending neck surgery. This being a contract year could mean that he might be forced into retirement, as it's going to be pretty hard for a team to want a player like that. Powell was a 4th-round pick in 2011. He's run for a career 3,446 yards and caught 204 passes for 1,567 yards. I'm not good with numbers. All while scoring 20 total touchdowns, all for the Jets. Isaiah Crowell will likely move up to the first string in the depth chart with Trenton Cannon as his backup. Now, the city of Oakland is not a great place to be if you're a sports fan. The Oakland A's remain in limbo without a stadium deal. The beloved Golden State Warriors are setting up shop in San Francisco, but perhaps the most egregious of all is the fall of the Oakland Raiders. Yes, I know this team's been bad for a long time, but back in the 80s and 90s, that was a scary place to play. The team was good, the fans packed the seat, they had a nasty reputation, and they could back it up on the football field. Starting in 1995, though, this team saw a huge dip out of relevance until John Gruden came in, turned him around, got him back into the postseason. And then after he was fired, they made it to the Super Bowl. Now, that was in 2002. After that, back to mediocrity. Not a single winning season until a surprising 12-4 finish in 2016. Headlined by a budding team of young superstars like Derek Carr, Latavius Murray, Amari Cooper, and Khalil Mack. This was becoming a looming threat in the West. And I'll never forget the beginning of the 2017 season when they brought in Marshawn Lynch. He was running circles around the Jets in week 2. He literally dancing on the sidelines. They were putting it up on the scoreboard. Fans were going nuts. It was like the Raiders were back in business. After that game, though, they started losing, dropped to 6-10 that year. It was Jack Del Rio who took the blame, and so the team decided after a decade of not coaching, the smart play would be to bring in John Gruden once again to right the ship. Everyone expected this would be terrible, and guess what? They were right. Now the fans want Gruden to get the axe, but that likely isn't going to happen. He's going to build himself his own football team, starting with trading away Khalil Mack instead of paying him, handing Amari Cooper to the Cowboys, and they're talking about sitting Derek Carr. Yeah, I know those are really bad moves. I hate the Raiders, but even I can realize when you have a good thing, keep it together. Now, granted, this team really isn't producing. Amari Cooper's still young, but he really didn't look that great through the first 6 games this season. Latest news is that the players are beginning to be upset with the way Gruden's doing business, specifically in regards to the Cooper trade and the treatment of Carr. The point is, Raiders fans, you're stuck with Gruden. You're stuck with the mediocrity for at least a few more years. It looked like you had something, some kind of potential, and then everything just this year just downhill. They're 1-7, I believe, right now, and they'll be playing the 49ers this week. So 2 teams with 1 win Something's got to give. Now, if you live in Oakland, no worries. This is your chance to jump ship. Plenty of good franchises to bandwagon onto. If you live in Las Vegas, well, I suppose it's a good thing you live in Las Vegas because you'll be drowning out a lot of football sorrows. All right, folks, as much as I love talking about sports and their failures, we still have NCAA football, NBA action to cover, plus we find out the consequences of good old-fashioned B&E. And Brenden O'Keefe joins us for Hockey Talk. Stick around, Sports. We'll be back in a flash.
League MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. Now it's time to add to your resume. NBA champion. How does that sound?
Man, I'm so hyped right now. Anything's possible. Anything's possible!
Fall is officially upon us, friends. I hope you have your North Faces and your PSLs ready, because you're going to need them. I have to say, both of those companies have really good branding. I mean, who doesn't want that for their own company? We here at Sports are looking for the same like-minded companies who want to grow their brands by advertising through us. Want to be involved? It's easy. Just email us at sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Right now we're offering free advertising on our show, so please shoot us a message and take advantage of this offer. Okay, that's all I have to say. Let's get back to the show.
Vikings at their own 39. It's third down. Three receivers right, Thielen left. Marshawn Lattimore 12 yards from Adam. Case on a deep drop. Steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Diggs. Stay up. Oh my God! 30! 10! Touchdown! Are you kidding me? It's a Minneapolis Miracle! Step on Diggs! And the Minnesota Vikings have walked on the New Orleans Saints! It's a 61-yard Minneapolis Miracle!
Welcome back. Quick scoring update for you. Boston Red Sox still winning 2-1. Again, by the time you hear this, game's probably over, but for your own sake of mind, in case you're curious. All right, it's the third inning, by the way. Let's talk NCAA football. What do you think? You like that idea? I like that idea. What about you over there? There's nobody over there, but they like that idea too. All right, looking at some of the upsets and close games from this weekend, there were a lot. Georgia Southern, they beat Appalachian State 34-14. Northwestern got a win over Wisconsin, who just couldn't get it together. Too many fumbles and inopportune penalties held them back. Final score there, 31-17. Georgia, they destroy Florida in a match between two top 10 teams. Poor Gators gave up double-digit points in three quarters. Houston takes out Southern Florida 57-36, my apologies. Penn State holds off Iowa for the 30-24 victory. California gets a win over Washington thanks to the one-man football machine linebacker Evan Williams, who led the team in touchdowns and tackles. Syracuse gets a win over NC State after scoring 24 points in the first quarter. The final score there was 51-41. Texas A&M, they led up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, fell to Mississippi State 28-13. Mississippi. It's like Minnesota and Mississippi had a baby. Washington State barely beat Sanford 41-38. 17 points for Wash in the last 12 minutes of the game. Plus Gardner Minshew threw 3 touchdowns over 400 yards. That certainly helped. Unranked Oklahoma State brought home a major victory against Texas, the number 6 team in the country. Longhorns had no answers on defense, allowing 260 yards in the first quarter alone. That's the most yardage in 15 years that they've allowed in a single quarter. Final score there, 38-35. Lastly, the Ducks, Oregon, they were defeated by Arizona 44-15. That is 8 unranked teams that beat ranked teams this weekend. I meant to say that in reverse, but you get the point. 8 teams were upset this weekend. How's that going to affect the top 25? Well, at least for the top 10, doesn't affect it too much. 8 unranked schools are now ranked, including a few that pulled off the big wins. Your top 10 right now is Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame. They're all undefeated, 8-0. LSU, they sit at number 4 at 7-1. Then Michigan, Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State, they're all 7-1. UCF still undefeated at 7-0. They sit at the 9th slot. Washington State, they moved to 10 at 7-1. And just outside that, you have Kentucky and Virginia. Both of them also have 1 loss. All right, we're going to move into some basketball now. There's some good games this weekend. Utah, they handed the Pelicans their first loss of the season on Saturday, 132-111. New Orleans was letting up 28 points or more in each quarter. Just no defense. But, of course, that's what happens when your best player, Anthony Davis, is not playing. Smart move, though. Better off letting him rest with the Warriors around the corner. I believe they play them on Tuesday or Wednesday this week. You'll have to look that one up. Celtics, they get a victory over Detroit, who's been playing really well thus far. Boston is finally looking like themselves. They had 8 players with over 20 minutes of game time, and not a single one of them cracked the 20-point mark on the scoring sheet. Pistons star Blake Griffin, he played 30 minutes. He only had 7 points. Yikes. Final score there, 109-89. The Bulls, they beat the Hawks 97-85. Pacers get a win over the Cavaliers, 119-107. And Cleveland is now 0-6 because of it. 76ers barely beat Charlotte, 105-103. Heat beat the Trail Blazers, 120-111. Grizzlies, they get a win over Phoenix, 117-96. Lakers and Spurs in a close battle. LeBron looks like himself again, scoring 35 points, although the Lakers did have a double-digit lead late in the game. 15 seconds on the clock. James missed the three-pointer that would have brought them to overtime. Bucks with 113 over the Magic to remain undefeated. Warriors, Nets, Jazz, Mavericks, Suns, Thunder, and Wizards, Clippers. Those are all late games tonight, so I do not have the scores for those. It was announced earlier this week that the NBA plans to revamp its recruiting system. Now, the NBA G League, which is often a forgotten place where former prospects go to live out their careers in anonymity, will soon be allowed to offer contracts to recruits in order to give them a path to the NBA that would allow them to skip college altogether. Honestly, I think the idea is brilliant. There was obviously a market for this already, as others have been trying to start their own amateur leagues with the same goal. Let's look at the JBA. Thank you. Oh my goodness. The Balls, the Ball family, they made that whole amateur league. We talked about this on the show before. So, obviously there's a market for it, right? It's going to help cut down on the one-and-dones that's been plaguing college basketball, in my opinion. And then more obviously more details are going to be needed. But I think it's a great outlet for these young athletes. The only downfalls I see are that it encourages less players to go to college, so not as many of them are going to gain an education or a chance to have an education. I also don't think this is going to hurt the NCAA either. You know, you'll always have standouts that are going to end up being drafted or taken by teams like Duke and Kentucky. They'll continue to get the best prospects. The best prospects that don't get into the G League. My assumption is that a year or two in the G League would be required before getting a chance to play in the NBA. But again, we don't really have as much details on this. So I'm really excited to find out more. Tell me your thoughts. I'm not really seeing a downside, but if you do, please, our email, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Also this week, the KD recruitment has begun with a banner depicting Kevin Durant and Kristaps Porzingis with the O'Brien Trophy going up next to Madison Square Garden in New York City. KD stated that he was unimpressed, and the Warriors continue to not be worried. New York is still considered Durant's top landing spot, especially after he dropped 41 points on the Knickerbockers. Sure would be nice to see him do that in MSG every game. Just saying, Kevin. You can do that. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. All right, still to come, visit from our guest, Brenden O'Keefe, to talk about the NHL. Plus, we have to talk about the Athlete of the Week, although anyone who follows my Twitter feed at Sports3X Podcast will probably already know who it is. Take a chill pill and buckle up because sports. We'll be right back.
And that one escapes back to center. Torrey Krug with quite a shot, and now Kapanen escapes around in front. He scores!
Are your briefs too stretchy? Well, now they don't have to be with Stiff Pants, now with only 45% chance of impotence. Okay, that's a pretty bad advertisement. You know what would work better here, though? Your own ad. Nick Drago here again, offering you a piece of the action right here, right now. Best part is, it could be anything you want it to be. No, wait, that's not the best part. How could I forget the best part? The best part is I'm offering free ad space. So, if you have a product you want me to endorse, please email us at sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. It won't cost you a dime, and I'll be waiting patiently at my computer.
Kevin Miller. Right back ahead, it's DeBrusque with a step. DeBrusque trying to get ready.
Watch Gardner. He pivots inside. gets himself out of position. DeBrusque is able to get it to the forehand, and that's a nasty goal.
Little scoring update for you, friends. It's currently 2-1. Nothing has changed in the Red Sox game, so take it easy, animals. All right, my sheets here says it's hokey time. I'm assuming we're doing the hokey pokey. You put your right hand in, you put your right hand out. I'm really assuming it means hockey. Devils hold off a late rally to beat the Panthers 3-2. Islanders explode for 6 versus the Flyers. The Edmonton Oilers pulled off a much-needed victory over the best team in hockey right now, the Nashville Predators. Philippe Forsberg did a great job on the ice, tallying 3 goals for the Preds. Oilers break the 13-game losing streak they had against Nashville. Capitals squeak out a win over the Flames 4-3. Maple Leafs and the Jets in a matchup of Canada's hottest teams. The Jets were up by 2 goals. Toronto scored back-to-back 26 seconds apart in the game to beat Winnipeg. But in the process, lost Austin Matthews to a shoulder injury. He's been ruled out for Monday's games, but we have no news behind that. Leafs, they win 3-2. Blue Jackets beat the Sabres in overtime, 5-4. Canadians embarrassed Boston with a 3-0 victory, fitting since the Bruins beat Philly 3-0 the night before. Blues managed to get a victory over the Blackhawks, 7-3. The Wild are currently on a 5-game winning streak, longest in the league at this moment. I apologize for my hiccups. The most recent win was against the Avalanche, a 3-2 victory at home. Mikael Granlund, he played hero, scoring a goal and assisted on the winner by Eric Stahl in the third. Coyotes beat the Lightning 7-1. Rawr. Penguins, they unloaded the Canucks 5-0. That's their third straight game with 5 or more goals. Yes, see, I'm wearing the jersey right now. Way to go, Penguins. All right, Kings beat the Rangers 4-3. That was this afternoon. Islanders, they got their second straight, 2-1 over the Hurricanes. Red Wings, they beat the Stars 4-2. Oilers and Blackhawks were in a late game tonight. Actually, no, they're not. That game ended. The Oilers won in overtime, actually. Yeah, 2-1. That was a crazy game. Sharks and Ducks in the late game. Senators, Golden Knights, that's a late game tonight, too. Looking ahead to who's leading the divisions right now. What if we were going to go to the playoffs? Here's what it looked like. Maple Leafs are ahead 16 points. Lightning at 15. Canadians at 14 in the Atlantic. Bruins and Sabres, they would be your wild card teams. They both have 14 points apiece. In the Metro, the Penguins on top, 14 points. Hurricanes at 13. Darn Hurricanes, how are they still up there? And the Blue Jackets at 12. In the Central, the Preds, they have 16 points. Avalanche at 16, Jets at 15. Wild cards are your Wild and Blackhawks. The Blackhawks are at 15 as well. Wild, they're at 14. Oilers, they're at 13, leading the Pacific. Way to go, Oilers. Sharks at 12, and the Canucks, they're 12 points too, although they are 6-6. They would literally get a playoff spot at this moment with a 500 record. And not even a wild card slot. They would be in the playoffs. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. We talked last week about the NHL and some of the changes they made to equipment that the goalies are wearing. Goalies are not happy with the changes made. So I decided, why don't we bring in one of our special guests? They're going to join us on the show today to talk about goalies, the league, and his favorite team, the Boston Bruins. It's only fitting that we did this interview on the week where his favorite team played my local team, the Flyers. Allow me to introduce you to hockey specialist, Brenden O'Keefe. All right, Brenden. How you doing, buddy?
Excellent. How are you, Nick?
I'm good. So talk to me here. What the heck is going on with these goalies?
Oh, so this year they changed the goalie pad rules. They wanted to make them smaller, more form-fitting.
Mm-hmm.
And some interviews that I've read with some of the goalies is they don't like it. They're not fans. But the shooters are big fans. And I have to say, I did some research this week on my own. And so like the average for the last 10 or since 2010, there's an average of 2.6 goals per game per team, and then there's an average of 5.3 goals per game total. So roughly for the last 10 years. Now this year already, more than 40% of the games have broken that total goal count, and that's just for one team in the game. You know, talk about the season opener, unfortunately, Bruins versus the Washington Capitals, and 7-0. So there's one team right off the rip, and then a couple games later, the Bruins came back, beat the Red Wings 8-2. So I mean, those are two right off the top of the head, already going above and beyond. Now, whether the shooters are getting good or the pads are part of the cause, who knows? But I mean, I've read some interviews with some goalies, and they're complaining. They're like, "Yeah, we come out of here bruised and banged up, after one game more than we do in a season because." They used to have a cushioning between like where the pad actually was in their body, but now because it's form fitting, it's just like it's like basically just putting a piece of cardboard between them and the puck and 100-mile-an-hour frozen piece of rubber. It's not doing it. So.
Yeah, I mean, do you think, obviously the intention was, like you said, more scoring. Do you think they intended for these goalies to be beat up like this?
I don't think they wanted the goalies to be beat up. I think that's kind of an unintentional effect from this change. But the league definitely wanted more goals. They wanted more goals.
Right.
And, they had these 170-pound goalies coming out looking like they're 250 pounds because, hey, if I wear a long pad, I wear an XL, I just got an extra inch and a half all around me. That's an extra inch and a half to, clip a puck that can just change the trajectory a little bit. That gives them a little less distance to close their arms, try to squeeze a puck in there. So, but with that, it is what it is. They've had several changes come through the league that people don't like at first, but it just becomes part of the game and they'll get used to it. But what I like about it, though, it definitely makes the goaltenders work harder. It's nice seeing some actually very athletic saves out there. Also, it's nice to see a lot more goals scored,
Absolutely. Well, I always compare it to like the steroid era in baseball. Is like, yeah, you have all this other stuff going on, but hey, all those home runs are making you a lot of money. So like the NHL, they're going to take as much time as possible correcting this, because I think I saw something today that they were at least going to look into the issue. Now, you have you have a couple goalies. You have Jeremy Reimer, who was complaining that he's flinching every time somebody tries to shoot at him. Marc-Andre Fleury decided to wear an extra T-shirt under his jersey. And then you have Holtby, who's no longer taking shots in practice. Which, hey, Holtby can get as little practice as he wants, as much as I don't like the Capitals. But do you feel like some of these goalies, this is hockey, right? You're supposed to get beat up a little bit.
Yes.
Are these guys, are they just being wimps out there? I don't know.
I mean, just on average, if you look, they're making 30, 40 shots on goal. If it's hitting them, even the games this year, if you look at it, there's been a lot more rebound opportunities for the offense out there, just because these goalies are getting hit by this puck and things that normally they would have held on to or grabbed better, they're letting them go. These pucks are squirting out on them just because I think it's, they flinch on the shot, they get hit, and they go, wow, that hurt a lot more than I'm used to. So now they have that period of, I would block this shot, I could get square, no worries, I took it, not a problem. But now they're taking these shots, they're second guessing, they're going, I could have taken that to the chest, but I'm going to try to hit it with the blocker now, just because that's not going to hurt me as badly. And at the end of the day, everyone kind of looks out for their own safety. And, if you got to stop 100-mile-an-hour pucks for, 60 minutes every night, it's not fun, not including practices.
Yeah.
So they're taking those shots there, because what's the point of practicing in the old pads if you can't wear them in the game?
That's fair. That's a good point. I always think back to, I've been thinking back to like the old goalies like Jacques Plante and Terry Sawchuk with like no face mask, like almost no padding on at all, making these saves. So,
but
of course,
you got to remember, they were using literally pieces of lumber. Those sticks were 10, 12 pounds. They couldn't, and they didn't have a curve. The players weren't nearly as skilled. Not to take away, they were skilled, but not at the level that they are today. So those pucks were moving a lot slower. Those goalies had a lot more opportunities to get in the way or out of the way of them.
Yeah,
so.
That's fair. Now, I take it by the background here, you're a big Rangers fan. Am I getting that correctly?
Ride or die Rangers,
Yeah. How are those Bruins doing so far? Third place right now?
Fourth place in the East. So, our ninth overall in the league, or seventh overall in the league.
I mean, they obviously the last 10 years, they've always put a good team on the ice. Do you think that they're better than the Maple Leafs and the Lightning?
All right, so the Maple Leafs and the Lightning I'm not surprised by the Lightning. The Lightning were absolutely a top contender. They were a fantastic team last year. It's hard to get over the hurdle of the Maple Leafs just being the Maple Leafs. But, they're killing it this year. I think the Bruins' best chance will be against the Lightning, and I still even think the Lightning will take it then, but I don't see the Bruins faring well against the Maple Leafs, especially with we're getting killed on defense right now. Our offensive line's doing all right, but we got a lot of young people in there, and we're already down 5 players now in the year for injuries.
Yeah.
So it's like, so now we're trying to rotate new players in. But, yeah, I think they won't be a contender for the Cup. I think they'll make a playoff runs, but they'll probably make a second-round exit like they did last year. But, as much as it hurts me to say it.
Well, I mean, the goaltending situation's pretty abysmal there. Plus, the penalty minutes are racking up like crazy. I think the Bruins are 6th right now in penalty minutes.
Yeah, they're number 1 in fights. Number 1 in fights.
Well, at least the fans are happy then.
Yeah, but hey, that's what brought me to their team, and I came for the fights. I stayed for the cup in 2011, so we're getting back to our roots. But yeah, the defense is hard. I kind of like what they're doing, switching out Rask and Halak. I mean, I think Halak should be the starter, honestly, at this point in time. Rask should be back up, but I've been headhunting for Rask for years now. Even their game on Tuesday that they played, I mean, Brandon Carlo, the defenseman who just came back off of injury, he made just as many stops on goal as Rask did because Rask was letting him get by. Batted one out of the air and pulled one right off the line. So it's rough. But yeah, the penalty minutes are killing them. Pretty heated about Tuesday night's games. I mean, there were some pretty bad calls. I don't remember this being as much of an issue last season as this year, but I've seen a lot of bad calls on that hybrid icing now. I mean, I've watched several different games. I've been to a couple live now, and that they're getting it wrong a lot. And I definitely feel like that throws the game, not necessarily towards a team, but it definitely changes the momentum. And
I don't understand why they can't get this right. I agree with you. I've seen a few games that have the same issue.
Yeah. So it'll be like, okay, the defenseman's clearly getting to the puck first. And so they kind of slow up. Hey, I got to the top of the circle. I got to the red line. They should whistle it. Doesn't get whistled. Or on the other side is the offensive team coming down definitely has a couple steps on the defenseman. They get to the top of the circle and the linesman will blow it dead. And everyone's like, what the heck's going on? I clearly had the steps on them. I was absolutely going to get it, but I've seen at least once a game for all the games that I've watched this season. I see it called. I see that called incorrectly. So. Yeah,
that's fair. What about this is the other thing that I've been reading a lot about, and this is really bothering me, is teams are pulling their goalies way too early. Like the Stars, Jim Montgomery pulled his goalie, I think there were 8 minutes left, and they pulled him and lost 4-1.
It's a desperation play. You try, hey, you know what? Get some people in the zone. It's a game of numbers. You throw enough pucks at the net, one of them should go in eventually. With 8 minutes to go, you get that one goal that swings the momentum your way. Hey, we made this risky move. We got one in there. We only got to score a couple more now to tie it up to make this a competitive game. If you're losing or just getting smashed all game, you're like, hey, you know what we're doing is not working. I will try anything to just get some points on the board. Anything. Yeah. Even if we can tie it up to take it to overtime, at least we're getting 1 point out of it for the standings, which could help them later on in the season. That 1 point will make or break a team, come playoff time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I feel like goalies in general, just maybe it's this year. I don't really know. It's just a raw deal. You're not going to see another guy like Roy or Brodeur or even Fleury for that matter, because Fleury's been consistent for a really long time now.
Absolutely.
But there's nobody left in the league that maybe Pecorine. He's the only person I can think of that's that consistent.
Oh, he's like a consistent B player. It's just like, you know what? He's good, but he's not a Fleury. He's not a Lundqvist. He's not a Tim Thomas. He's not, but he's there. Like he stopped 5 more pucks a game. Absolutely, he's a top tier contender. But he's just he's 89%. He's 89%. He can't break that ceiling, but he's there.
Is that really his save percentage? Is 89?
I don't know if it's 89.
Okay.
90%'s an A. Gets you a 4.0 in college, and he's at 89. You're like you're almost to that, everybody.
He's almost elite. Almost.
Exactly.
But I think back, look back 10 years ago, or maybe let's go back 15 years ago. Okay, I feel like every team had a dominant goaltender.
Absolutely.
You had guys like Mika Kiprusoff and Tim Thomas, Marty Turco. Like every team had somebody. Osgood and Fleury and Lundqvist was still young at the time, but he was dominant his entire career. And now it's like, I don't think I could tell you some of the top goaltenders in the league right now. I'm looking at the list, and I don't know any.
Hey, who is it? When did you get put in here? Are you a backup? Just taking a night off?
Yeah.
But you got to look at the league. Back then, it was heavy deep. Like you had the big, your 6'5" Russian dude who just pounded people into the boards. You had your one dude on the team who could skate and puck handle, and that was your score. It was low scoring games. It was very big, very slow, a very physical game. But look at it now. You got your Ovechkins, you got your Malkins, your Crosbys, you got your Brad Marchands, your Patrice Bergerons. They're small and fast. They're getting in, they're getting out, they're quick. So the goalies used to be big. They used to be bigger. They used to have bigger padding now technically, and so they absolutely seemed like they're better goalies. Oh, it was a 1-0 game. Oh, it was a 2-1 game because these goalies were stopping the puck. But you got to think the caliber of the people coming at them. They were good for their time, but it was still not as fast or as often. And what was the average saves per game, like 25, something like that?
Yeah,
it wasn't. They weren't shots. So of course, their save numbers are good. You make one good save in the game, maybe two, and you're like, oh my God, you're this great goalie. But you can watch any hockey game and watch somebody make a dive and save, some crazy butterfly, some flip behind. So
yeah, that's fair. One last thing before you go, since it's still early in the season, who do you got? Stanley Cup, playoffs? What do you got? It's such a crapshoot to pick right now. Everybody's basically tied.
Just because the Maple Leafs picked up Tavares, and I mean they're crushing people. I see them making it to the Cup round. I see the Hurricanes making it to the. I think the Hurricanes are going to make it to the semifinals.
I hate the fact that the Hurricanes are in first place. They're doing well right now.
Right, and what was it? The Canadians. Everyone expected them. I think you used the term to suck out loud, and they're third right now. So I mean, I think Predators are gonna be the ones that come in, and because they're second? No, they're first overall.
Something like that. I don't recall.
Yeah, I think I pulled it up. They're first, and the Maple Leafs are second. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Predators Maple Leafs, but
I don't know. I feel like the Maple Leafs. Yeah, they started great. I think they started 6-1. They lost their last two, shut out by Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
and they lost a bad one. Who was it the other day? I don't remember. But there's something about that team.
They're the Maple Leafs.
I don't feel like they have the depth just yet.
That's what I'm thinking. But I mean, just look at how well they did last year. I mean, they got knocked out in the first round, and I hate to say it, they should have beat the Bruins. They absolutely should have beat them. It sucks to say, man. They were the better team. We just got a couple lucky bounces. They should have made it farther. But this year, with picking up Tavares, I mean, I don't know if they'll win it. I can see him going all the way to the Cup round. I don't anticipate Vegas even making the playoffs this year, though.
No.
I mean, they had that great first year, but I think it was luck. They had some schedule things going their way, but I don't see them doing well this year. I think that bottle rocket fizzled out. Also, the Capitals, I don't see them making it either.
You don't think they're going to make the playoffs?
I don't think they'll make the playoffs.
Oh, my gosh.
They've had a couple really good games, but, I mean, overall, in the long run, the other teams are going to find their steam, and the Capitals are going to do what the Capitals do, and then it's just going to be all right, well, Holtby's going to Holtby it, and he was a brick wall this game, but for the next 4 games, he's going to be a trash can. And then, someone's going to get injured, so Ovechkin's not going to have his usual people on his line. So,
yeah, I feel like they kept – everybody talked about how well they kept their team together, but they lost a lot of depth players, and their coach, too.
Yeah, they got rid of a lot of players. They got rid of a lot of people who were critical to winning them the Cup. Now they don't have that anymore. So this is a rebuilding year for them when they probably could have been a contender again this year, but I don't think they got the people. I see them fizzling out come the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the Penguins made the same mistake after they won the second Cup. I mean, Fleury was unavoidable because you had the expansion draft. And honestly, I think if the expansion draft didn't occur, I think the Penguins would have had a much better postseason. But that's beyond the point. But they lost guys like Cullen. They lost Bonino. They just couldn't keep that core together. The depth, the young, the guys on the third and fourth line, because that's what wins you a championship.
Exactly, that's very important. You need that. And if you get rid of it and trying to be like, hey, we have the veterans trying to train the new guys, but the new guys, you're going to make rookie mistakes. You're not going to be used to the league. You're not used to the speed. You don't have the hockey IQ yet.
Yeah.
It takes, you play all your life, all the college hockey you want, all the AHL you want, CHL, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the big show is the big show, and that's where you need to get education.
I mean, you're always going to have those players that see the game differently than everybody else. For the Bruins, Pasternak is that guy for me.
Oh,
Watching
yeah.
him, he is it's so interesting to watch him on the ice, or even just the way he sees the game and how he talks about the game it's cool.
Absolutely. So.
All right, man. Thanks for joining us. It's good talking to you.
Absolutely.
Have a good one.
You too. See ya.
Okay, before we wrap up the show, we have our Athlete of the Week. Now, look, we've all done dumb things under the influence. However, I can't think of many people who've done what Chad Kelly did. Kelly is now the former Denver Bronco QB. He was arrested for good old B&E. Police were called to investigate a man standing outside a residential home at 1:17 a.m. The man entered the house while the police were en route. That man, being Chad Kelly, of course, sat down on a couple's couch, mumbled incoherently, until he was hit in the back with a piece from a vacuum cleaner. And that at least scared him out of the house and into his SUV, where the police eventually found him. What I want to know is, what was he mumbling? Like, you just broke into somebody's house and sat down on their couch, and you're just talking away. What was he saying? That is what I'd love to know. In case you do, email us, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Now, Kelly, he wasn't much of an asset to the Broncos. He was drafted in the last slot of the 2017 draft, Mr. Irrelevant. He was out of Ole Miss and served as the team's backup. In case you're curious, yes, he is related to Jim Kelly. He's Jim Kelly's nephew. And really considered the heir apparent to, the Jim Kelly talent, as his own son is no longer with us. Jim had attempted to take him under his wing, but felt that Chad wasn't listening to his advice and basically abandoned him. Now, that is bad. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the history as your uncle, and you don't even listen to the dude? Come on. Take this as a lesson. If you get belligerently drunk, please don't enter a stranger's home and sit on the couch. Otherwise, you'll be fired, as good old Chad was. Thanks for being our Athlete of the Week, sir. Now, please, get yourself to an AA meeting. All right, time for us to wrap up the show. No mail in my inbox this week, but I do want to thank, again, the hundreds of new followers on our social media accounts this week. It was a pleasure to see such a large influx, and I hope to keep it up. If you have any questions, please email us, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Whatever your question is, your comment, your concern, I will literally read it on the air. I don't care what it is. As long as it's not a rocket ship. I can't get you a rocket ship. Special thanks, as usual, to Johanna Drago, the content editor and logo designer for our podcast. Music for the show is, including our theme song, Golden Sunrise, is by Josh Woodward. A link to his website can be found in the show notes. Special thanks, as usual, to our social media warriors, Mary Kay Albert, Lois Butler, Sean Signer. He posted in his support of the Boston Red Sox this week, and Joe Calabro, who's also rooting for the Red Sox. We also got a like from Dougie DeGroot this week. Global News commented brilliant on one of our videos. That was nice of them. Also, thank you to Brenden O'Keefe for joining us on the program. We're looking forward to having you back later in the season. And thank you to the 153 new followers on SoundCloud and Twitter. Wow, that was a lot. I could barely keep up. Remember, if you want your name read on the show, it's super easy. Like, comment, share, email, Twitter at us, and all that fun stuff. Remember, you can find us by typing Sports with Nick Drago in any of your favorite social media sites. Basically, Twitter and Facebook, that's where we're at. Once again, this is a great show, but I need to go fight crime as my new alter ego, Sportsman. Hope you had a good spooky Halloween. I'm sure the scariest thing this week will be the 49ers Raiders Thursday night game. Once again, it's a pleasure providing you all with the news. Nighty night.